Is there a better shrimp pasta than shrimp scampi? I think so, and today I'm gonna make it. It's a shrimp and artichoke pasta from Sicily that blows it out of the water. This pasta is luscious, it's silky, it's rich, it has tons of shrimp flavor. Welcome to Actually Italian. I'm Sal, and I'm on a mission to help you cook authentic regional Italian cuisine. Today we're gonna make this shrimp and artichoke with Paccheri, which is one of my favorite pastas. It comes from Sicily and it's very seasonal because we're gonna use what's in season right now, which are these beautiful artichokes. The prep takes a few minutes, so let's get right into the ingredients. We'll start with the shrimp. I've got just your regular old average shrimp with the shell on, no head on this one. And then I've got this interesting little guy here, which I'm gonna talk about more in a second. The reason why we want the shells on these shrimp is because the shell is actually gonna be the most important part of the dish, because we're gonna make what's called a fumetto in Italian. It's sort of like a light broth. So we're gonna roast these shells and then we're gonna make a broth out of it, and that's essentially gonna be our sauce. So you really have to have the shells on to be able to do that. This is a prawn, or in Italian, a scampo. Shrimp scampi is actually shrimp prawns, if you really think about it. So it's not referring to the sauce. So scampi isn't the butter and garlic and parsley. Scampi are these. I am glad to have this though, because I would have preferred head-on shrimp, because with that broth, the head gives a ton of extra flavor. I am gonna take the meat out of this shell, and I'm gonna use the head and the claws in with the rest of the shells to make that fumetto, which will give it a lot of extra flavor. This is what artichokes look like when I get them at our local market. They leave these leaves on at the market because this is the indicator on how fresh these are. These leaves aren't all dried out, they're pretty meaty still, which means that these were picked probably 2 days ago, maybe at the most. That's the key to Italian cuisine, using the freshest ingredients that you can find. If you don't have fresh artichokes around, you can use frozen one. If you can get fresh artichokes though, that definitely is gonna be the better option. Cleaning up the artichokes is a little bit of a process. We need 2 different knives, a serrated knife and a paring knife. Now the serrated knife is because these leaves here are really tough, and even a sharp knife is gonna have trouble getting through there safely. Now the stem shouldn't be thrown away, because that middle section there, that circle inside, that is essentially the same as the heart. So we can clean all this fibrous part off and leave that, and it's gonna taste just as good as the rest of the artichoke. To get down to the heart of the artichoke now, I'm gonna cut through all of these leaves. I basically wanna go about 2/3 of the way down from the top, because everything that we want is gonna be in this section of the artichoke. So I'm just gonna cut straight down. And we've got, you can see that the leaves are starting to get kinda yellowish green in the middle. Those are gonna be tender enough to eat. These ones are not. I wanna take out these tough outer leaves to get to where the more tender ones are exposed. So we'll just go around. Oop, these are sharp. Some of these are gonna be really sharp, so be careful. That got me good. All right, so these are pretty much like yellowish green here. These we can eat. This we can't. So we wanna take the paring knife and get rid of that tough green part around the base. And now we've basically exposed the heart. So this is all edible. We have to get rid of the choke that's on the inside now though, so we have to cut this in half. And then you can see that fuzzy bit inside. In most cases, this is gonna be very fibrous, and these leaves here would actually be a little sharp. I'm just gonna take the point of the knife and I'm just gonna run it under that part, and then with my thumb, I'm just gonna kind of pull that out and clean it up. And that's basically it. So this is the cleaned artichoke now. I'm just gonna slice it up into 1/4 inch slices with the heart and those leaves. And that's gonna be the artichoke in this. And And that's the last of the artichoke there. I'm just putting them in some acidulated water there so that way they don't get brown. I've got some white vinegar in there, but you could just use lemon juice if you wanted. I do want to mention too, to not use marinated artichokes in this. You want either frozen or fresh. Marinated is not going to work because it's got all kinds of seasoning and vinegar and oil. It's just not the right one to use. Okay, so we've got a small pot with some olive oil over medium-high heat, and we're going to add the shells right to that. By toasting them like this, we're going to intensify the flavor, and that's what's going to make it so luscious. Just going to stir continuously just so they don't burn. But what we're trying to do is kind of toast them, almost dry them out, and it's going to sort of caramelize the flavor. We can see that it's starting to kind of stick to the bottom a little bit. That means that we're ready. So I'm going to add some white wine to this now. And we're going to let that wine reduce. All right, we've got the alcohol pretty much evaporated from the wine. So I'm just going to add some water here. And we're going to let this boil for probably like 10 minutes, I'd say. We've pretty much gotten all the flavor that we can get out of these shells now. It's been simmering here, boiling rather, for about 10 minutes. I'm going to strain this. Now we're going to add the liquid back to the pot because we need to do two things here. We need to cook the artichokes through and get them nice and tender. We also want to reduce this broth almost to a syrup because that's going to turn it from a broth into a sauce. We'll let it cook for probably 10 more minutes like this, but we'll continually check on it. I want to show you how much this is evaporated. We basically got it reduced, and it's, I'd say, less than half of what there was. So now the artichoke is cooked. We've got this nice broth. So now we have to cook the shrimp. If you want to make this ahead of time, like say the day ahead, this is where you'd want to stop and put this in the fridge. And then finish the next steps that come after you could do the day that you're going to make it. I've got a pan with a little bit of olive oil over medium-high heat. I'm going to add the shrimp now. And we're going to cook the shrimp and get a little bit of caramelization from it because I'm going to add this sauce. I'm going to add this into this once the shrimp is cooked. The shrimp only needs a few minutes to cook. I don't want to take too long with this. The shrimp is just barely cooked through, and we've got some bits starting to develop on the bottom. So we're developing layers of flavor here. So that's exactly what we want. I'm going to put this right in there. Then we want to scrape up those bits on the bottom. This is going to further intensify this sauce. Now I haven't added any salt or anything to this yet either. One is because the shrimp is a little salty, but also we're going to add the pasta cooking water to this because it's going to be the thing that makes this a sauce, and that's going to have some salt in it. Oh, wow, that is really good. I'm going to shut this off. This essentially is done now. I've got salted water boiling here. I'm going to add the pasta, and I'm really just using enough water to cover the pasta. This effect, they actually do this in Italy. It's called risottata, which means risotto style. You use just enough liquid to cook it and have that liquid be very starchy for that creaminess of the rice dish. So with pasta, they kind of do it the same way, except you're not adding a little water at a time. It's just you're using a lot less water than you normally would use. You can see the starch already starting to develop on here. It's only been in there for a minute. The pasta is basically a minute from being al dente, so this pasta takes 16 minutes to cook. It's been 15 minutes. I've got the heat back on the sauce, and I'm going to add a ladle of that pasta cooking water. And we're going to finish cooking the pasta in that sauce. I do want to reserve another ladle just in case, because we want this to be fairly liquidy. Since the pasta is going to continue to cook, it's going to absorb a lot of that liquid. So we want to have a little bit extra as like an insurance policy. So this is going to heat up, start cooking, and thicken up a little bit. I'm gonna drain the pasta. Before I put the pasta in, I just wanna check this for seasoning. Oh, that's perfect. So I'm gonna toss that pasta in there now and get this cooked through. Just wanna gently toss this. I wanna get all of that pasta in the liquid so that way it can continue to cook. And then it'll be perfectly al dente by the time this is done. So it's only gonna need a minute in there. I just checked this for doneness and it's perfectly al dente. I'm gonna shut the heat off, add some parsley. This will freshen it up, give it a nice brightness. And then the last bit, which is very important, is some very good extra virgin olive oil. It's unfiltered, it's raw, and it's just got pure olive flavor. Just gonna toss it again to get it all incorporated. Now let's give it a taste. I wanna get a bite with some of the artichoke and the shrimp and the pasta and the juice all at the same time. This is deceptively good. It doesn't look like it should taste as good as it does, but it's so rich with flavor. The sauce is silky and it's smooth and it's creamy. This is the Mediterranean in a bowl right here. For the amount of effort, it was definitely worth it. It's not exactly a weeknight meal, but it's perfect for a weekend. Would be great on a holiday. And if you're trying to impress a date, I can't imagine a better pasta than this. I hope you try this. I hope you enjoy it. And for now, I have to get back into this. I can't resist any longer. So we'll see you in the next video.